Right. Good morning, everyone. All the online students, is it the screen is visible? All the online students, could you please everyone respond in the chat window? I request all the online students need to respond in the chat window. I'm expecting the response from every online student, guys. Okay, perfect, guys. Perfect. Let's get continued then. So the one we have been discussing about this particular aspect of TypeScripting, right? Right. So we have been understanding this particular aspect of TypeScript concepts here. As part of this particular TypeScript concept, first we have been discussing about in understanding printing with the statement. If you want to begin print with the statement, how exactly we can print with the statement that we have been discussing. And then it will be taking with this particular next statement. After that, we have been discussing about this particular variable keywords. Okay. And then we got understanded class, method, object. We got understanded class and then taking with method and then object. Continued with the same, we got understanded data types and variables, which we will be taking with data types and variables. Then it will be taking with this particular next concept, we got understanded static methods. Continued with the same, we got understanded constructor. Right. So we got understanded, which it will be taking with that particular perspective of constructor. Right. So which will be taking with that particular perspective of constructor, then it will be taking with access modifiers. We can say that access modifiers, or we can consider that we will be taking with specifiers. So this is what we have been done. Now, continued with the same, we need to be get understood another concept. That is what we will be taking with the conditions and loops. So while working this particular TypeScript, how exactly you will be taking with that particular conditions. So how exactly you will be taking with this particular respective of conditions in TypeScript. That is what we need to be get understand. Let's see that how exactly we can go with these particular respective concepts here. Okay, so that is what all you guys can write with the new heading. Everyone just can write with the new heading, mention the conditions. So write with the new heading, mention the conditions. So what are the conditions we got according to your knowledge? As part of your knowledge, what are the conditions we got? Mm-hmm. Right. So if I go with this particular perspective of conditions in simple, we can say that if else, else if, nested if, right? So these are the conditions we got it. As usual, I mentioned that if we want, if we guys want to become an expertise, if you want to become an expertise in the programming, I told that you can apply my formula 100%, not like 99, 100%, it will become an expertise here, right? So to become expertise in programming, okay. So what exactly that particular formula? So what is that formula? What is the formula I mentioned? Just only two steps of formula have been given. If you guys has been following this particular formula, not like 99%, I can say that 100%. So 100% it will become an expertise. So what is the formula I have been mentioned is first you need to be get aware of that what it will be the use or what it will be the purpose. Okay, use of the concept and then taking with purpose of that particular concept. What exactly the use of that particular concept and purpose of the concept? As all you guys has been already doing with the practice, as already you have been doing with the practice, while taking with the practice, don't just go with the practice of very blindly. I mean, open the VS Code and then typing the program and then executing, program executed, completed. It's not like that. It's not like just it will be taking with, in taking, in mentioning that it will be doing with that particular aspect of practice. So how that particular practice need to be done is first try to understand that what exactly the use of that particular concept and the purpose of that particular concept as part of that programming. Once you are clear about use of the concept and purpose of the concept, once we have been clear about use of that particular concept and purpose of that particular concept is the next one you need to be get go with syntax of the concept. The next one is syntax of the concept. Once you are very clear about what will be the use of the concept, then you will be taking with syntax of that particular concept here. Now let's see that how exactly we can go with that particular syntax. Let's look into that how exactly you will be taking with that particular use. First, we'll understand that what will be the use of these conditions. Then we'll be taking with syntax of these particular conditions here. Okay, if I go with these particular syntaxes, first we'll be taking with if condition. First we'll be taking with that particular respective if condition. The use of this particular if condition, we can mention that to work with, to work with only true statement. Assume that your requirement is you want to work with only true statement. If you want to work with only true statement, then it will be taking with the help of if condition. No, sir, I want to work with if and else condition. If I want to get work with this particular true and false, then it will be taking with if else. If I'm just taking with this particular respective of if else, we can mention that we can consider to work with, okay, to work with true and false, to work with true and false statements. Right. So to work with true and false statement you will be taking with this particular if else. But while working this particular if else, we can work with only one condition. At a time, we can work with only one condition. As part of the requirement, you want to work with more than one condition. You want to work with more than one condition. So to work with that particular more than one condition, then you will be taking with else if. Else if we can say that to work with more than one condition. To work with more than one condition. If I just go with this particular perspective of else if, we can say that we can mention that to work with more than one condition. And finally, you will be taking with this particular nested if. If I'm taking with the nested if, we can mention that to work with. To work with in a condition. In a condition, one more condition. To work with in a condition, you will be taking with one more condition that you will be taking with this particular perspective of nested if. See the first understanding. What exactly use of these particular concepts? The first concept of if condition, the use of if condition is to work with only true statement. That means based on that particular program requirement, if you want to get work with only true statement, then it will be taking with the help of if condition. In the same way, you will be taking with that particular if else. If I'm just taking with that particular if else, you will mention that to work with true and false statement. To work with true and false statement, that you will be taking with if else. Then you will be taking with else if, that particular else if mention that to work with more than one condition. If you want to work with more than one condition, then you will be taking with that particular else if. Then you will be taking with that particular nested if. Nested if, we can say that to work in a condition. First, you are writing one particular condition. Inside of that, you will be writing with one more condition. First, you are writing one condition. Inside of that, you will be writing one more condition. That is what you will be taking with that particular perspective of nested if here. Okay, so let's see that how exactly we can work with this particular thing. First, we'll understand what is a syntax. First, we understand what is the use of this. Now we'll understand the syntax and then we'll be writing that particular programs here. Let's see that. Right. See the syntax here. We'll go with this particular respective syntax. Okay. Right. So if I just go with this particular perspective of syntax. So first we need to go with, it will be taking with, right. So which it will be taking with this particular syntax. So what exactly that particular syntax need to be get followed? Let's see here. First, if condition. So while working this particular if condition, the syntax is first we'll be writing if statement in a small letter. First we'll be writing if in a small letter. Okay. And then you need to write condition. Condition 1. Condition 1 is true. Then you will print that statement. Condition 1 is true. You will be printing that particular statement. Assume that condition 1 has been failed. If the condition 1 has been failed, then, okay. Right. So that particular condition has been failed. In case of that particular condition has been failed, it will not be printing any statement. Condition 1 is true, it will print the statement. Condition 1 is fail, then it will not be printing any statement. Because if condition is working with only true statement, it is working with only true statement, then it will be taking with this particular respective of if else. It will be taking with if else. If I'm just taking with this particular respective of if else statement, if I just go with this particular if else statement, that particular one, first I will be writing with the if, I will be writing condition 1. Condition 1 is true. Condition 1 is true. Then it will be printing that particular statement. Condition 1 is true. Then it will be printing that particular respective statement. Assume that that particular condition 1 has been failed. Condition 1 has been failed. In case of that particular condition 1 has been failed, then it will be taking with else statement, which will be taking with else statement, which it will be printing that particular respective of else statements. Now, here we got an option at a time. We are able to write only one condition. Please be very clear, guys. At a time, we are able to write only one condition. Condition is true. It will be printing condition 1. Okay. So in case of this particular condition 1, okay, so which will be taking with condition 1 has been failed, then it will come to else statement. But here we are able to write only one condition. In case if you want to write more than one condition, then it will be taking with else if. Now see that how it will be working with else if. First, it will be writing if condition. It will be taking with condition 1. First, it will be writing if condition. It will be taking with condition 1. Condition 1 is true. Condition 1 is true. Then it will print this statement. See the understanding, guys. Condition 1 is true. It will be printing that particular statement. Assume that condition 1 is fail. Condition 1 is fail. Then it will be taking with second condition. That is what it will be taking with the else if, mentioning that this particular condition 2. Okay, so condition 2 also fail. Condition 2 also fail. Then it will be taking with that particular condition 3. Condition 3. Condition 3 also fail. Then it will be taking with condition 4. There is no limit in writing the condition. There is no limit in writing the condition. According to that particular requirement, we need to be take with the help of that particular required conditions. In case any of the condition is not true, then it will be taking with that particular respective else statement. Any of the condition is not true, then it will be taking with that particular respective else statement. So this is what it will be taking with invoking this particular else if. See the understanding. While working if else, we are able to write only one condition. While working else if, we are able to write more than one condition. But you written more than one condition. As you written three conditions are not executing at the same time. Please be very clear, guys. Three conditions are not executing at the same time. First, will be taking with condition 1. Condition 1 is true. It will go, condition 1 is true. It will not go with the second condition. First condition fail, then it will go with the second condition. Second condition also fail, third condition. Any of the conditions are not matching, any of the conditions are not matching, then it will be taking with else statement. Any of the conditions are not matching, then it will be taking with that particular else statement here. So this is what it will be taking with invoking else if statement. In the same way, it will be having this particular nested if. Let's see that how exactly it will be working this particular nested if statement. Let's look into that. Nested if. If I just go with this particular nested if statement, how you will be working. For that particular nested if, first will be taking with if condition. First will be taking with if condition. It will be taking with if, it will be writing that particular condition. Sorry. Condition 1. Now, if condition open. See the understanding. Condition 1 is true. Condition 1 is true. Then it will enter into condition 2. Condition 1 is true. Then it will enter into that particular condition 2. See the difference here. While working else if condition 1 fail, then it will enter into second condition. But while working with the nested if condition 1 is true, then it will enter into second condition. A second condition is true, it will print with the statement. In case second condition is fail, second condition is fail, then it will be printing that particular respective else statement. Second condition is fail, then it will be printing that particular respective else statement. Okay, then it will be closing this particular if. Now assume that this particular first condition itself fail. First condition itself fail. Then it will be taking with this particular respective of that respective else statement. So this is how it will be taking with in which it will be working with these particular respective of conditions. So while working these particular nested if, so while working these particular nested if, let's see that how exactly it will be taking with these particular respective of nested if here. Okay. Now see the execution, how exactly it will be working. If I go with this particular perspective of execution, so how exactly it is working is first it will look into condition 1. Condition 1 is true. Then it will be executing this particular condition 2. Condition 2 also true, then it will be printing that statement. It will be printing that statement. Assume that second condition is fail. Assume that second condition is fail. In case of second condition is fail, it will take that else statement. Okay. No, sir. First condition itself fail. First condition itself fail. Then directly it will be taking with that particular else statement. First condition itself fail. Then directly it will be taking with that particular respective of else statement. This is what it will be taking with these particular respective steps here. So in this way, we need to get go with in working with these particular respective conditions here. Let's see the whole conclusion. So while working this particular if condition, if I just go with this particular if condition, we can mention that, we can say that to work with only true statement, only true statements. If you want to get work with only true statement, then it will be taking with if condition. Because if we just look into this, first it will be looking into the condition. Condition is true, it will print that statement. Condition is fail, condition is fail, it will not be printing any statement. Condition is fail, it will not be printing any of that particular statements here. Okay, then it will be taking with these particular respective steps here. Now it will be taking with this particular if else here. If I just take with this particular if else, it will be mentioning that to work with, to work with true and false statements. To work with that particular true and false statement, it will be taking with the help of this particular if else. To work with that particular true and false statement, it will be taking with that particular respective of if else statement. This is what it will be taking with. Right. So this is what it will be taking with these particular respective steps here. So in this way, it will be taking with, it will be having this particular one here. Right? Then it will be taking with that particular else if I'm just taking with this particular else if, we can mention that. If I just go with this particular else if, we can consider that to work with more than one condition. To work with more than one condition. So to work with more than one condition, it will be taking with this particular one of else statement. In the same way, you will be taking with nested if. If I'm taking with this particular nested if, we can mention that in simple to work with, to work with in a condition, in a condition, one more condition. To work with in a condition one more condition, then it will be taking with this particular respective of nested if. First, you written one condition. Inside of that, you written one more condition that you will be taking with nested if. So this is what we got in a concept of the conditions. We got if condition, if else condition, else if condition, then you will be taking with nested if condition. If else if, nested if. And we have a switch statement. Switch statement is there that I will explain in further. For now, you can consider these are the four conditions are available while working this particular TypeScript. Okay, let's go with an example to get in a clear picture of these particular things here. If I just go with this particular one, so how exactly we can write an examples? Let's see that. I will be taking with that particular 77. You will mention that open in integrated terminal. Then you will be taking with this particular new file. Mention the example underscore conditions. You will be taking with example underscore conditions. You will be taking with dot ts, which you will be taking with example underscore conditions dot ts. Okay. Now you will be writing with the conditions. See here, first, as we are already knowing about data types and variables, I'm just mentioning that let a equal to 10. We got both the syntaxes here. We can mention that particular data type also, or if you are not mentioning data type also, it will be working. So first we mention that let a equal to 10. Then writing that particular if condition, it will be taking with if which you will be taking with if mention that a less than or equal to 15. Then it will be printing with the statement mentioning that console.log and printing with the statement mentioning that if statement executed. So we are printing with the statement and mentioning that if statement executed. Now if I run this program, what is the result I will get? Right. So if I'm executing this particular program, it's need to be get printed if statement executed because a value is 10, 10 less than 15, condition is true. As condition has been true, it's need to be get print with the statement. See that TSX providing file name example underscore condition dot ts. So then you will be able to see that in printing with the statement that you will be mentioning that you will be taking with that particular respective if statement. So this is how we need to be get go with in printing this particular one. Let's see that. Now, yeah. So now if I go with this particular one. So the condition has been true, it will be printing that particular statement. Now assume that condition fail. Now condition fail. Now I'll run the program. What is the result it will print it? If I run this program, What is the result it will print it? Right. So if I'm just executing this particular one, it will be able to see that the result will be empty. It will not print anything. That is what your first understanding. So while working with the if condition is working with only true statement. Condition is true, it will be printing with the statement. Condition is true, it will be printing with the statement. Otherwise, it will be taking with, it will fail that particular statement here. So condition is true, it will be printing that particular statement. Condition is fail, then it will not be printing any of that particular statement. So this time condition is fail. Okay, as condition is fail, it will not be printing anything here. So this is what it will be taking with if condition. Now assume that this particular, if I just go with this particular respective of if condition, we can go with we need to be get print failed statement. Then it will be taking with this particular if else. In that particular else statement, we are printing that else statement executed. We are printing that else statement executed. Right? Now we can see if I'm executing with the program as condition has been failed, it will be printing that else statement executed. Right? So condition is true, it will go with the if statement. Condition is fail, then it will be taking with that particular respective of else statement here. Right? Okay. Now see here. In case of in this statement, condition is true. In case of that particular condition is true, then it will be printing that particular respective of if statement executed. So this is how it will be taking with in working this particular step mentioning that if else statement. But here, how many conditions were written? As part of this particular if else, how many conditions were written? Only one condition, guys, not like two. We written only one condition. We written only one condition. The condition is true, print if statement. Condition is fail, print else statement. So we written only one condition. If the requirement is need to be get work with more than one condition. If the requirement is need to work with more than one condition, then it will be taking with this particular else if. Okay, so that particular else if, see here, I'll just mention that A double equal to 20. I'm printing that, mentioning that A value is 20. So here we got a single equal to, here we got a double equal to. Single equal to assigning, assignment operator. Single equal to assigning, we can say that assignment operator. If I'm just taking with that particular single equal to, we can mention that assignment, it will be taking with that particular assignment operator. Then it will be taking with double equal to. Double equal to, we can say that comparison. Double equal to, we can say that it will be taking with that particular respective comparison. Single equal to assigning, double equal to, it will be taking with that particular comparison. Okay, so this is what I will be mentioning that I will be taking with this particular respective double equal to. As condition is fail, it will come with one more condition. That I will be taking with one more condition. That I will be mentioning that A is 30. So this condition also fail. Then you will be writing with one more condition. This is also fail, which you will be taking with the fail. So which you will be taking with that particular 40. So which you will be taking with this particular step. Mentioning that A value is 20, the condition fail, it will come to the second condition. A value is 30, condition fail. It will come to the third condition fail. As all the conditions has been failed, it will be executing else statement. That means in case of any of the conditions are not matching, it will be taking with that particular respective of else statement. See here, this time any of the condition is not matching, then it will be printing that else statement executed. Else statement executed. Now, in case of condition is true, in case of that particular condition is true. Now, I can say that in case of that particular condition is true, it will be printing that particular respective value. I just mentioned A value is 30. Now, if I run this program, what is the result I will get? If I run this particular program, what is the result you will get? Right. If I'm just run this particular program, it's need to be get printed A value is 30, which I will be taking with A value is 30. So this is how you will be working it, which you will be taking with else if statement, which we can work with more than one condition, which we can work with more than one condition. Okay, then you will be taking with this particular one, which you will be taking with this particular respective step. And the next you will be taking with this particular one, you will be taking with this particular next step is you will be working nested if. See that how you will be working with that particular nested if. If I'm taking with that particular nested if, you will be taking with that particular A value and then you will be taking with that particular B value. You will be taking with A value and which you will be taking with that particular B value. Okay, now if I go with this particular one, first I will be taking with if condition. Mention that A equal to 30. Then it will open this particular if condition. Inside of the if, you are writing one more if condition. Then we are printing with the statement mentioning that A value is 30 and B value is 20. You're printing that A value is 30 and B value is 20. Okay. In case if this condition is fail, for that you will be writing that particular else statement, which you will be taking with else statement. So here we are just simple understanding. I'm printing the else statement. Else statement of second condition. Else statement of second condition. Okay, assume that which you will be taking with this particular else. First condition itself fail. first condition itself fail, then it will be printing that else statement of first condition. See that how the execution has been done. If I'm taking with this particular execution, if I'm just taking with this particular execution, so first condition, second condition, both are true. As both are true, it will take with A value is 30, B value is 20. Let me execute it. If I'm executing, it's need to be get printed. A value is 30 and then taking with B value is 20. Right? So this is what it will be mentioning that it will be taking with these particular statements here. So in this way, it will be printing it. Now assume that first condition is true, but second condition fail. Okay, first condition is true, but it will be taking with that particular second condition has been failed. See the understanding? Your first condition has been true, but which it will be taking with that particular second condition has been failed. Now, let's see that what exactly that particular result it will be printing that else statement of second condition, which it will be printing else statement of second condition. Else statement of second condition. Now assume that first condition itself is failed. Assume that first condition itself fail. So for example, I will be giving first condition as a 40. Now we can see first condition itself fail. Then it will not enter into the second condition, which it will be printing that else statement of first condition. That means, see the difference here. While working that particular else if the condition is true, condition is fail, then it will enter into the second condition. But while working this particular nested if, first condition is true, then it will enter into that particular second condition. So that is how it will be taking with this particular nested if. Now the whole conclusion is if condition to work with only true statement. As part of the requirement, if you want to be get work with only true statement, then it will be taking with if condition. If you want to be get work with that particular true and false, then it will be taking with if else. And then more than one condition, it will be taking with else if. In a condition itself, one more condition that it will be taking with nested if. So this is how you will be working with these particular different type of conditions here. In a similar way, we need to be get understand that particular loops concept. Just you can write with the new heading, mention that loops. Write with the new heading, mention that loops. With a small description. To perform same steps for multiple times. To perform same steps for multiple times, considering that repeated activity. To perform same steps for multiple times, saying that repeated activity. Okay, so write the loops. While loop, do while, for loop, for off. In case of Java, we got an for each. While working with that particular Java, we got an for each. This is will be taking with for of. While loop, do while, for loop, for of loop. Okay, so we need to get understand what are all these particular loops, how we need to work on that. That I'll be discussing. So I'll take tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be discussing about loops concept, and then we'll be taking with these particular keywords, arrays. So step by step we need to be get comfortable, but please continue your regular practice. You can utilize offline lab support or online lab support, but make sure that you will be taking with that particular regular practice here. If you're doing with the regular practice, it will be more easy to learn with the subject, guys. So programming is not at all difficult if you are doing with the proper practice. Okay, so please look into that. Please take care about the practice. Tomorrow we'll continue this new concept of the loops concept here. Okay, clear everyone? Right. Any questions? You guys can carry on your questions. Uh, yes, Akhil, you can carry on your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Right.
audible. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. Hi, sir.
Yeah.
So, in an automation perspective, among these among these four if conditions, so what is the most used if condition over here? Is it else if or else?
We'll go with the if else statement. Very
If
regularly, we'll be working with the if else statement.
okay,
Yeah, right.
thank you, sir.
Yeah. So all conditions are true in the nested if, it will enter into that first condition is true, it will go with the second condition. Second condition is true, it will go with the third condition. Third condition is true, it will go with the fourth condition. So how many conditions you written? It will look into, assume that you written 10 condition, 10 conditions true. In the 10th condition, whatever the statements you are printing, those particular statements will be printed here. So that is how you will be having it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, right. Sakshi, API testing also included. Yeah, it will take time. API testing also will be discussing it. Okay. All right, guys. No more other questions, right? Okay, then. Please take care about the practice. Meet you tomorrow then. Thank you.